Hey everyone, it's your girl Chris, and welcome to Between the Wickets, a conversation series where I step onto the pitch to explore the lives and stories of the professional players who live and breathe the game. Let's welcome today's guest, Taha Farooqi.
Thank
Hey
you so
Taha,
much.
of course, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks again for joining me today on Between the Wickets.
Of course, it's a pleasure.
Well, let's start with your journey, coming from a place like Minnesota where cricket isn't traditionally strong. What did growing up with the game look like for you there, and how did your Pakistani roots shape that experience?
For sure. I mean, so to speak, when you're raised as a cricketer in Minnesota, there aren't much facilities out there. There isn't much infrastructure here with the ground since we only play from around May to August, right? So
Right.
you have very limited cricket. And then you go south or the East Coast or West Coast, and you have guys who are playing, round the clock from January to December. And when you match up with them in national tournaments, the skill gap kind of starts to show there with the limited amount of cricket you play, with the maximum amount they play. And
Mhm.
at times it can be, for kids growing up here playing cricket, a little bit demotivating to know that maybe you aren't putting in as much work, so to speak, as the kids who are, down south or even in the West Coast, like California. But one thing I feel like that shaped me is I know that I may not get the best grounds here or the best run ups or the batsmen here. We may not be able to, score the ground scoring shots that kids down south might be able to do. But knowing those things when the odds are stacked against you, I firmly believe that it's something of the fact you need to, control your controllables, right? I
Right,
can't control the grounds I get. I can't control the facilities we get, and I can't control the weather, right? What I
right,
can
right.
control is my work ethic. I can work on my fitness year round. And one thing that should never change, I feel like, for not even just cricketers, but in life in general, is your attitude, right?
Yeah,
Your attitude has to be on top. You have to stay positive and you have to control your controllables. And I feel like knowing that I'm from Minnesota, competing against kids who, play cricket around the clock, is I have to work 10 times harder, right? And you have to innovate a little bit. We had Jesse Singh come up to Minnesota, I want to say a couple months back.
oh
And
wow.
he came from like, Jersey too, with a
Yeah,
similar story and a similar background. And what he told me really stuck with me was if you really, really want to be the one to break out of your state, you got to work 10 times harder than the guys across from you, right? And you got to
yeah,
innovate. You cannot make excuses for yourself, right? And one thing I firmly believe is too, you have to back yourself, because if you don't back yourself, nobody else is going to back you, right?
absolutely.
It
Yeah,
comes from yourself first. So coming from Minnesota, I feel like I've gotten a lot of mental toughness. You don't have people vouching for you initially because those selectors, the people outside, you're not coming from academies, right? You're coming by yourself. So you got to be a little bit stronger than the guy next to you if you want to make a name for yourself. And if the guy next to you is taking 2 wickets, you got to take 4 wickets. If he's scoring 30, 40 runs, you got to score 50, 60 runs. So it puts that extra motivation behind you to perform in a place knowing where if you don't back yourself, then you could be out the door.
right, right. And it's a bit of a reality check for yourself, but knowing that you have such a positive attitude and mindset as you navigate this ecosystem. And the reality is of, yes, coming from Minnesota, not coming from Texas or New York, Jersey, California, um, you're able to adapt and
Right.
flex in order
But
to
what I will
showcase.
say is, Krystal, the infrastructure here may not be the strongest. We
Yeah.
just started recently opening up a couple academies for the youth from the past couple years. But the community here and the support that
Mm.
I've gotten ever since I started playing cricket, I don't think it can be any other state.
And
I,
that was
I can say
one
that with
thing.
full
Yeah.
confidence.
Yeah. I love that you're back in your community.
100%.
And community shows up when a lot of other people don't.
Right.
Um, and it's a beautiful thing when community shows up. And that was something that I wanted to dive into you with was
Yeah.
did you find it challenging growing up in Minnesota, um, getting access to facilities and opportunities, or did your community help create those spaces for you?
Right. I mean, my journey to cricket started a little bit late. I always played, a little bit here and there recreationally as a kid with the youth camps that pop up, but there wasn't a legitimate pathway going into cricket there. It was more so to introduce the sport.
Right.
And I started playing around when I was 16, around my sophomore, junior year in high school, during that COVID era when I got cut from my basketball team.
Mm.
And I'm someone who, if I have a setback come to me, I wanna find the next way I can bounce back.
Yeah.
So my dad told me, you know what, come and play tape ball with my team because he is the captain of a local team over here in Minnesota. So I told him, I was like, sure, I'll come one day. And, you know, I was bowling quick and then people were enjoying. I was enjoying hitting batsmen, typical fast
Yeah.
bowler aggression. And I think the rest is kind of from there. But what Minnesota gave me was a lot of support
Mm.
because at the time when I started playing cricket, there weren't many kids who really wanted to go out and play these, US sanctioned national tournaments or had a dream to even play for the US in the first place. So when you see a kid has that passion and willingness to work hard for a goal, then I feel like the entire state really backed me from all
Yeah.
communities, all ethnicities, all backgrounds. Even today, like my local club over here, like I'm truly humbled, even playing all these leagues too, to be playing next to those guys who have given me so much and continue to give me so much support and so much backing.
Did you think that your Pakistani roots had a heavy influence on that?
I would say, being born in Canada, raised up here in like Minnesota, having Pakistani roots helped me more so with enjoying the culture of cricket and
Mm.
especially fast bowling, right?
Yeah.
You grow
Yeah.
up and there's always an era of fast bowling that comes along with that Pakistani culture. And I think the culture of tape ball as well,
Right.
it
Yeah.
really helped me, bowl quick and love the game in a different way that wasn't as traditional as kids who started playing hardball right away.
Gotcha.
I never got, legitimate coaching growing up, right? I was always pretty self-taught
Yeah.
and when you're self-taught, I feel like you're put at a disadvantage, right? Because you're not really knowing how these academies are functioning or proper technique, as one would say. But I do feel like when you're self-taught, you see the game in a different lens. You become a little bit more street smart with the game.
Mm.
You notice things in your own lens, and I feel like I've always had my own process of doing things. And because of that, whenever I make a decision on the field, whether it's to bowl a ball at a certain time, if I get hit, I get hit. But I know that is my decision that I took, right? And I'll live
Right.
and die by
Right.
my left hand. That's it. Simple as that,
I love that accountability. Very rare.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, speaking of not having that formal coaching,
Yeah,
did you feel any level of intimidation knowing that you were exposed to people who weren't around your age but had, different experiences and skill sets?
for sure. That's actually a great question. One thing I will say is I've always been really backed by my faith.
Mm.
Intimidation, like all glory to God, it's never been in me. It's
Yeah.
it's I truly mean this, and if you meet anybody like that knows me, they'll say the same thing. I always believe in putting your 100% efforts, and when you put your 100% efforts, you leave it to God after that, right? Same thing I told you
Yeah.
earlier about controlling your controllables.
Yeah.
Once I put my efforts, I leave it up to God, and I fear no one. I fear no one
Yeah.
but God. That's it. Simple as that.
That's beautiful. One thing that I wanted to take a step back, you talked about being cut from your basketball team in high school. Um, Take me back to that moment for a second, because I'm curious to know what that shift into cricket looked like for you mentally at that age, knowing you just got cut and now you're going to go and try out cricket, do tape ball with your dad and his team.
Yeah. So obviously, as a kid, you grow up. I didn't grow up playing cricket, right? I grew up
Yeah,
playing basketball, football. I swam, played tennis, all the other sports that aren't cricket.
right.
So, I really, really wanted to make the team. The same passion and work ethic I bring to cricket, I brought to basketball at the time. And it didn't go my way, and the result didn't go my way. But even as a Muslim, we have a belief of whatever happens to you, it's for a reason, right?
Yeah,
So I got cut from that team, and I was really distraught because I really thought that I was making that squad, and it didn't happen for me. But one thing my dad always tells me is once you have some negative outcome come in your life that you wanted an outcome and it didn't happen, you still thank God regardless. That you had the opportunity to a chance. And if it
yeah,
didn't happen, it didn't happen, and that's okay because something else is written for you. So, I came home that same night. I thanked God, and I really like I truly do look back at that moment and I'm like now I'm playing minor league and playing with all these like
yeah.
big players and everything, enjoying my cricket. And I'm like, I don't know how I was so upset about that small thing back in the day. But back in the day, that meant everything for me. My heart
Yeah.
was broken. Like that was my everything. I thought I was gonna be in the NBA at
Oh
five
my
seven.
goodness.
So
That's
yeah.
amazing though.
But
Yeah.
after that shift, I wanted to have another purpose, another drive.
Mm.
So my dad kind of gave me the opportunity, and then from there, I had people start to recognize me because I was bowling at quick speeds at a young age. And I was
Right.
pretty passionate too, right? Like most kids my age aren't, looking batsmen eye to eye, sledging them at like 16, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I
So,
think
yeah,
that's amazing, your passion, which is
right.
very rare, you know. Um, I think that there are so many people who are in cricket because their parents want them to be in cricket to fulfill their dreams and not
Mhm.
necessarily, a personal
Right.
passion. But um, yeah, I think passion is something that when you're doing what you do, it comes out naturally and people
100%.
can see it, you know.
And like even when you go to speak about like those things, I feel like if you're doing something you're not passionate about, that's called stress. I firmly believe that, right?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of kids out there who, have gotten training from, age like 4, right? They start
Wow.
walking, they put pads and a helmet on, they start batting,
Yeah.
right? But I believe passion takes you places that nothing else can take you. It's a natural human drug. I firmly believe that.
Yeah. And not only taking you places, but I think it connects you with the right people.
100%.
And it has you doing a lot more self-reflection about who you're associating with and are those people going to bring you down or uplift you?
Right.
Um, and I think that's a beautiful thing. Um, shifting from your early days because of recognition that you've now got, you've gotten quite the exposure
Yeah.
to different regional and national environments. And I think the audience deserves to know what you've been doing because you've made the training squad for the under 19 Midwest regional team.
Correct.
You represented the region at the USA National Tournament in LA. You competed in leagues like the Minnesota Cricket Association, the Chicago Area Sports Organization Circuit, and the Midwest Cricket Conference. And then you had tournaments like the US Junior Premier League, Liberty Cup, Michigan Open, and the American Federation Cricket League. Plus, you were selected for the USA Men's National Tournament before your
Yeah.
minor league debut last August with the Orlando
Correct.
Galaxy. Quite a lot of experiences under your belt, but how have those experiences shaped your development, and what have been some of the biggest takeaways for you at each level?
For sure. And I love how I really appreciate you mentioning all of them because you
Yeah,
look back and you're like, wow, it's a long journey, right?
yeah.
But what I will say is from starting from under 19, that Midwest zone, I actually had like 100-degree fever that day, the same day of trials. I
Oh
shouldn't
my
have gone that day, but I went. I was taking
God.
ibuprofen, painkillers, and I didn't know how I would make it. And sometimes when you have a firm belief that you just want to do something, the mind works a little stronger than the body at times,
Yeah. Mhm.
right? So it kind of happened, and I made the training squad, and I told my friends, I'm like, you know what? As long as I make the training squad, that's okay. I
Yeah,
just want some place where I can have a facility or some place to train, just something that I can practice in properly. That's not a two-step baseball cage. That's all I
right,
wanted.
right.
And then, things went step by step. I started performing in those intrazonal games, taking wickets, and then eventually, made that final squad. And then from there, had a good performance, a good outing there in the under 19 national tournament in one game. But it really opened my eyes to see what cricket is outside of the state, right? I was realizing that, kids take this game really seriously, right?
Yeah,
There's a lot more than just passion. You have to work really hard. You have to work on your technique, and it's a completely different ballgame playing on flat grounds, right? I'm used to bowling sometimes, full length balls, batsmen drive it, and the ball gets stopped by the grass, right?
yeah, yeah.
I don't got 11 fielders, I got 12, right?
Right.
So those things were all new learnings for me, and I started realizing how proper cricket is played, and it made me realize that this is something I want to start pursuing more, right? I want to work hard, and I want to get to this level that these kids are at, because I started playing at that time maybe 1 or 2 years. Those kids at that under 19 national level, they've been playing for 10 plus years, right?
Wow. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I knew that if I really want to do something with the sport, then I got to catch up. I've got to catch up, right? So then, I worked really hard in that off season. I had a lot of people in Minnesota help me out as well and guide me accordingly, which, I'm forever grateful for. And that's why I give, all my success and everything to the people here in Minnesota at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I started realizing too that I started performing in Minnesota as well. And I realized that if I really want to get into these out of state tournaments and these domestic tournaments with all these players, that I have to start making my name out in high cricketing areas. And
Right.
then closest thing that next to me was Chicago. So, I had a long conversation with my father and I realized, I've had a lot of people help me out in Chicago as well. I feel like that's a second home for me now. And I
Wow.
told my
Okay.
dad, I'm like, you know what? I want to start traveling to Chicago over the weekends. I want to start taking wickets there. I want to start getting my name out there.
Mm.
And I've been so blessed by God that I have such two amazing parents who, whatever I say, they'll back me as long as I give my 100%. And my dad
Yeah.
told me that as long as you give your 100%, he said, I'll give you the world. He said, you just got to tell me that you're going to be 100% all in. And I told him, Dad,
Yeah.
this is what I want to do. And so, like, I get really emotional just thinking about it. Even like 3 weeks ago, I was just in Chicago, and for the past couple of years, my father has been driving me for just like 7 hours there and back every single weekend. And you miss a lot of family functions,
Yeah.
miss a lot of events with friends. You At times you feel like you don't know where your relationships are in place, and on the bad days too, you realize like, oh, is what I'm doing, is it really worth it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And all those things. But sometimes when you have a goal in mind, there's got to be some sacrifices put into place. And especially where I'm coming from, at starting cricket at a later age, then that's the sacrifice I was willing to take. And I started performing well in Chicago. I started getting to play with players who are international players who fly and play in games and local games in Chicago. I started getting more experience there, exposure, started taking wickets there as well and finding success. And eventually when you start having success in high local areas, then you start getting your name out. And then that's what helped me, play Liberty Cup with the Incredibles, which is also an amazing club that I've been a part of for the past 2 years and have gotten ample opportunities from them. And the management there is just incredibly, kind and understanding of my situation, and they've really played a part in my growth as well.
Good. That's amazing. Talk to me about minor league last year. That's quite exciting.
For sure. I mean, no doubt, right? The goal when you start playing cricket is you want to play major league, you want to play minor league, right? There's
Hmm.
no question about that. And where I came from, there wasn't, it's pretty difficult to make it in those big leagues, right? From a
Yeah.
small cricketing state. But like I said, you go to Chicago, you start making those connections, and eventually you get ins in these big tournaments, and it's your opportunity, it's your shot that you want to seize the opportunity, you want to seize the moment. And I've been lucky that in big games I've been able to perform and get my name out there. And then when you start playing these tournaments, then these minor league owners, they start seeing you and knowing what you're about. And I got a call up for the trial, and then I performed well. And then obviously the legend coach Shivnarine Chanderpaul, you can't really get a better coach than him, right? So
Honestly, no, you can't.
right.
That's exciting.
So, I performed well, and then I got the call up to for the squad as a free agent as well. And
Wow, okay.
then I love the management there too. They're very, respectful and understanding, as well as developing youth and giving the opportunity to kids who are passionate, have the right
Mm.
attitude, and are willing to give their all for the team. And I was lucky to debut on the first game and bowl the second over of the game, and
Wow.
it was against a Baltimore Royals team, which you grow up watching guys like Sharad Lumba and these big
Yes.
players like Juskran, and
Yes,
now the
yes.
next day you're playing against these guys.
Yeah.
Even Mukhtar Ahmed, like I was watching him back in 2016 when he was playing for Pakistan, and now I'm bowling against him. So it was a
Yeah,
really a full circle moment, and it's just it keeps you very humble knowing that God's been very kind to me, and it's also your hard work, right? If you put in the hard work, then hard work never gets wasted.
absolutely.
And what got me really emotional too was seeing, my mom and dad in the stands and knowing all those hours and trips that we've taken to Chicago over the summer, even during school, like as a student as well. When you travel during the school year, it can get a little stressful at times, knowing,
Yeah.
you leave an early Friday morning, you come a late Sunday night, you have classes, you're doing your homework in hotel lobbies, and the bad days too, the bad performances, and you're like, shoot, man, what am I doing here? What am
Yeah.
I doing here? Like,
Yeah.
but
And you're human. You're allowed to think
100%.
those things,
100%.
and to question, okay, well, do I really belong in this ecosystem? What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? But you seem like a very positive person. And I
For
got that
sure.
from our first interaction. And honestly, the mindset is your mind is such a powerful thing, but your
100%.
mindset is so positive. And just hearing it, it makes me emotional too, because my parents are the same way. They will back me 100% as long as, I've got that 100% and I've got that
Right.
self-belief. Um, so shout out to your parents
Yeah.
for just constantly backing you and for their sacrifices to ensure that you're nurtured, you're supported, and you're successful in the goals that you set for yourself. And how amazing throughout all those experiences, like you said, you're being humbled by the people that you meet, but like watching Mukhtar Ahmed and getting to meet so many different people, having a coach like Shiv Chanderpaul, having a conversation with Jesse saying these are people that are in the circuit, and it's amazing when you're so open to gaining those skills and that knowledge as well.
Right. And I mean, I even have like some of my friends that like when we were playing in the men's national tournaments, I was going up to these senior players, I was asking them for advice, and they'd be like, how are you so willing to just go up to these guys? I'm like, I don't have the time to not seek knowledge from people. I don't have
Right.
time to have an ego and show attitude to people. I come from Minnesota. These opportunities I don't take for granted, right? Any moment I can, seek advice or get some added thing that I can add to my game as a bowler or even as a cricketer in general, I'm going to take that opportunity, right? I have no
Yeah.
time to be shy. I just have to be, big hearted, full of life, and just go after the opportunities that I can make for myself.
And that's a beautiful thing you said, just case in point of not having an ego. You can't afford to have one when you are, in the same community, in the same ecosystem as these players. And at the end of the
100%.
day, people forget that they're human just like us. They've got a little more media attention, but we've all started from the same place, and we have similar stories. We're more alike than different, but gaining that knowledge is so important. And just applying your skills on top of that, it's always going to be a good positive outcome. Sure, some days aren't going to be
Mm-hmm.
as good as others, but that's the reality of the game.
100%. And going back to what you said about having an ego, I mean, you could have confidence on the field. I'm 100%. I'm a
Absolutely.
believer of that. I always tell the kids here, you get hit for six, you put your collar up. You
Uh,
put your collar up, you
You're
look at the
allowed
bats.
to.
And
Yeah.
I'm big on that. But
Yeah.
as for having an ego, I feel the game humbles you really quickly.
Mhm.
And you can be up one day, you can be taking five first, you can be taking wickets, and the next day you're not performing. And that's when it counts. And I feel
Yeah.
like once you get to a high level of cricket, it's not about skills, right? Everybody can swing the ball, take wickets, everyone can score runs. It's really about how you are here and how you are here, right? How are you on the bad days, right? When you're not taking
Absolutely.
wickets, when runs aren't coming off your bat, how are you then, right? Are you still the teammate that your teammates need you to be, right? Are you still that coachable person that still willing to take feedback and criticism? That's for me. That's what counts,
Yeah.
right? And even like Jesse, he told me a lot of like great things that I still I take to heart now. That he said you could cricket makes you cry more than it makes you smile, right? And I feel like most cricketers would agree with me. But it's
Yeah.
how are you? You don't go too high on the good days and you don't go too low on the low days. You stay middle grounded. You stay humble. And I think you reap good rewards when it comes to you. And I firmly believe that if I don't perform, I don't perform. That's okay. I'll evaluate, I'll take the learnings from that game, and then I'll move on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I firmly believe,
Absolutely.
like I tell all my friends too, like it's a blessing to even be on the field, right? There's a lot of people who look at the TV and they wish they were, they wish they were playing, or they have a leg issue or some injury or life altering change that they're not able to play the sport that they wish they could,
Yeah.
right? So I always thank God every day that knowing, I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm fit, and I'm able to play the sport that I love, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot
And
of people in worse conditions than I am. So the stress of
yeah,
cricket, it's pretty small and minuscule when you look at what's happening outside of the real world.
absolutely. And I think also the beautiful thing is just having the support of your parents and your community, no matter
Yeah.
where you go. And that keeps you grounded. From training, traveling, managing your fitness, making these round trips to Chicago with your dad almost every weekend, which honestly, like you had mentioned before, it must have been exhausting, especially balancing school and all. How important has sacrifice, mental resilience, and faith been in your journey?
Everything.
Mm.
Everything you have listed, I wouldn't be the person I am today without all of those things. I wouldn't be the cricketer I am without all of those things. And I feel like mental toughness is the number one thing that a cricketer has to have, or any athlete in general. You
Yeah,
cannot play good level cricket, you cannot play high level without mental toughness. Because like I told you earlier, anybody can play, right? Players can play. But at that level, it comes down to here,
yeah,
right? And when it comes to the Chicago trips, right? It's easy when you're local, you have a bad game, and then you just come home, and then now you just kick it with your buddies, right? It's
right.
pretty easy to wind down and clear your mental. But when it comes to Chicago, right, you're investing like almost 14 hours just in that car, right? Going there, coming back, and you're sacrificing that entire weekend, right?
Mhm.
Like it's even like me and my dad are going. My mom's alone on the weekends, right? So it's like she's like, I'm done with cricket. She said, one day you play the USA team. She said, no more, nothing. She said, I'm gonna stand in the box and I'm gonna watch you.
Oh
And like,
man.
she's like she we laugh too. She's like, you guys talk about cricket for 7 hours in the car. The second you guys come back, this is all you guys are talking about. Because my I think my dad's more passionate about my cricket than I am. So
Oh wow. Yeah. I feel like that's how dads are sometimes.
oh for sure,
You
100%.
know, but
But
yeah, that's amazing.
But like on the bad games, right? When you're not performing and you got to go back and you're thinking about all the sacrifices you're making, is it worth it? Is it not? That's
Mhm.
when you got to believe in a higher power. Regardless of your religion, regardless of what you believe in, I feel like belief in a higher power is what really keeps you going.
Yeah.
Because on the good days, it's easy to be good. Everybody's happy and smiling on the good days, right? It's can you smile on the bad days, right? Can you be grateful, thankful on the bad days? And that's what carries you to success, right? It's easy to work hard when things are going well for you. But, when you're not taking up wickets, right? When you're not in rhythm, and then you wake up early or late after school with your lectures and classes and go to train in the nets, that's a pretty hard thing to do, right? And
Yeah.
that's why a lot of people are big on motivation and how, you got to stay motivated. I'm not a big believer in motivation. I feel like it comes here at times, but it's really about discipline, right? On the
Absolutely.
good days, on the bad days, if it's raining, if it's snowing, it's whatever the conditions are, you just got to do what you got to do. Because if you have a goal in mind, all the external factors don't play a part. You just got to do your job and your role. And I
No
think
one
that's
else is
something that
gonna get that
Chicago's
goal
taught me.
done but you. That's
Yeah,
the thing, and it's again that self-belief of yes, I can do this. I know that this wasn't a good day, but we're gonna keep it going. We're gonna keep it moving
100%.
forward. We're gonna get it done. No one else is gonna get it done for us, regardless of whether or not we have that support. But again, the mind is a powerful thing.
Yep.
Stay humble and stay driven. You spoke quite a lot about your dad.
Yeah,
And I'd love for us to speak a little about him because he's played such a big role in your journey.
100%.
What does his support mean to you now, especially when you look back at everything you've both put into this?
I think, like I said, when I was debuting in minor league under the lights in North Carolina, I feel like that's what I think the best ground to play in the country, even more than Grand Prairie, honestly, because the
Which
crowd
is
comes out.
that's a bold statement.
I
Yeah.
know it's a hot take, but
Yeah.
I firmly believe the city out there, especially when you play Morrisville, the crowd comes out,
Mhm.
they have a good time, and Krystal, I'll tell you this: there's a reason the semifinal and final of minor league happened out there. I'll tell you that much. They bring a good
Listen,
crowd.
yeah, yeah.
But seeing, my dad come in the stands and my mother with him, obviously, and knowing that like it was really full circle. I was looking around the ground under the lights that day, and seeing my dad there, and realizing that all the sacrifices we did and to get your
Mhm.
name out and that exposure was all for this moment right here, right? The new ball, minor league game, and debuting right there. So I was really taking that all in right before my first over when I was fielding at third man. And I realized that all the sacrifices that I've been doing for 2 years, the good days, the bad days, and now seeing my dad there, knowing that this is, everything that we've done is for this moment, it was really,
Yeah.
like I was just praising God the entire time, knowing like I'm so fortunate and so blessed that, my hard work didn't go to waste, right? And
Yeah.
the moment that we were all dreaming for it finally did happen.
It gets me
So
emotional too.
surreal.
Like when you spoke about being emotional, just, looking back at those moments and just the support from your parents. It's a beautiful thing, and to experience that is it's quite humbling because our parents make so many sacrifices, and I feel
100%.
like as we get older, we realize there may not be things that we could give to them to fulfill that in gratitude, but we'll do everything to make sure those sacrifices don't go in vain.
100%. And even like I have a lot of buddies out there who, their parents put a lot of pressure on them if they're not scoring runs or not taking wickets. My father's never been that way.
Yeah,
He's always backed me. Even more so in my negative performances. He'll talk about the conditions and why maybe they weren't favorable for me at that moment or time. And he's really enforced my beliefs on even on the bad days, you smile and you praise God and you thankful for the opportunity that you've received. So
yes,
even when
absolutely.
I'm not performing, it makes no difference for me because I know I'm truly blessed to even be on the field in the first place, regardless of even if I'm in the playing 11 or not.
Right, right. Yeah. And you're just taking those opportunities, and you're continuing to build your skill set, your mental,
Right.
and even your network.
100%.
You've had to navigate two demanding roles, being an athlete and a student, often with very different expectations. How do
Correct.
you stay disciplined in both?
Gotcha. Well, academically speaking, my mom, she's not letting me go.
Don't blame her.
She's not letting me go. My dad can sometimes compromise, honestly. But
Mm.
my mom, she's not letting that slide. But overall, right, you have a vision, right? You have
Yeah.
goals. And once you are very clear on what you want to do, right? Then I feel once you have that direction, it's about eliminating the distractions.
Mm.
And for somebody like me, I've been blessed. I've never had something called FOMO. I really haven't. I feel like if you have FOMO as an athlete, then it holds you back a little bit. It holds you
Yeah.
back a little bit. So I've always been pretty, disciplined and hardworking, I would say. Even cricket, I've never believed I'm the most talented player. I've never believed that I've had everything given to me. I've had to work pretty hard, but knowing that I was disciplined within my work, I was very honest and I worked very hard.
Yeah.
And once, like I said, when you have a direction and you eliminate the distractions, then it becomes a lot easier. Knowing that, this is like what my priorities are, what needs to be done, and time management. Time management is a big thing.
Yes.
That is a big
Yes.
thing. Knowing like, what my priorities are, what I need to get done, and to be successful in both areas, you can't make excuses. If I go to the ground and say, tell my captain or tell the owners, I'm sorry, I was in a hotel lobby for extra few hours late night, finishing up my 11:59 assignments, or
Mm.
even go to my professors and be like, oh well, I was playing, so I couldn't really do well in this assignment. I'm not want to make excuses.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of that, and I feel like once you start making excuses for yourself, you fall in a bad hole. And
Yeah.
if you want to make excuses for yourself, that's fine. But at the end of the day, you got to get the job done, right? You don't. If all these guys who are playing the USA team right now, you think they're making excuses for themselves? You have
Absolutely
to make
not.
it happen.
Yeah.
That's what I tell my kids here too in Minnesota when we're coaching them or they're asking for advice. You can't look at, oh, I didn't bowl well because of this or this
Right.
happened because of that. You make it happen.
Yeah.
You just make it happen. Nobody's asking you, oh, is your hamstring strained? Are you having shin splints or this or that? They're looking for results on the field, right? They're not looking for excuses. And at good level, if you give excuses, you go out the door. You go out the door.
Yeah.
So you got to find a way to make things happen, right? Because if you're not going to make it happen, nobody's going to make it happen for you. So I think
And
that's that attitude of making it happen is what really
yeah.
helps me out balance both.
And it's quite admirable because I'm also the same way. I don't have FOMO. I think because, you know, being brought up in that sense of discipline and priorities and working hard for what you want, really didn't allow us to kind of miss out on anything and just be bothered by it. Because, you're constantly working hard to progress and be a better
Correct.
version of yourself. Um, and like you said, making excuses, it'll do you no good.
Right.
um, and I think continuously building yourself up, you can't fall into those holes, Um,
Yes.
but I think you put it so beautifully that you're continuously evaluating and eliminating those distractions. It's so important. And especially because we live in this world of technology and social media, which could also be a number one distraction.
100%.
You've got to continue to stay disciplined. But it makes me curious, have you ever felt pressured to choose one over the other, or do you think they've worked out to be complementary?
Complimentary.
Mm,
Because, at the end of the day, my number one priority is my education, right? I really, I want to go to healthcare. I want to help people. And that's what I feel satisfaction to do within my life later on. And being an athlete too, you kind of see a different lens that I feel like non-athletes don't see.
you're right.
And my goal is I want to be an orthopedic surgeon and
Wow.
combine skills of psychiatry within that realm because I feel like
Okay.
within those things, when athletes are going through injuries, it's more than just the body, it takes the mind too. Because when
Absolutely.
you're
Yeah.
not playing, you have a loss of identity almost, so to speak, because you train, you work hard, you play these games, and your identity is based off yourself as an athlete. And once you're injured and you lose that thing, then you start disassociating from your own identity. And
Mm,
so healthcare is something I'm very passionate about, and cricket as well. So my number one priority is obviously my education, right? But combining my passion and love for sport alongside my passion for healthcare and knowing that these are things that have helped me two and two, right? The discipline, the work ethic that I've gotten from cricket, it really translates to me academically speaking, right? That attitude of making it happen, not making excuses for yourself. And in cricket, you have no option to be lazy, right?
right.
If you're lazy one ball, it goes for four the next.
That's
Right?
it.
So you gotta
Yeah.
be on your toes, you gotta be proactive, not reactive. And I feel like that's something I've really taken with me in my academics. And I feel like of course there are days where I feel like they contrast, but
Mm,
overall, holistically speaking, they both help me out. They both
yeah.
help me out, and I feel like I'm a better person because of both of them.
That's great and well said. And also keeping the faith in both, cricket and your education, because sometimes you have to keep the faith in education. Your story now feels bigger than just your own journey.
100%.
Um, what does it mean to you to be someone that younger players in Minnesota can look up to?
Yeah. And this is something like once again, it's a very humbling thing
Mm,
because when I was growing up playing cricket, like here in Minnesota, there weren't really many, older figures that were only a few years older than me that could help me navigate immediately that US sector.
right.
Right? I was learning these things on my own and building these connections myself and going to unknown lands and unknown areas and trying to make a name for myself, right?
Yeah.
Now I feel like in the couple of recent years, we've had two academies open up here in Minnesota, and kids are flocking in because after the recent World Cup success with the U.S. when they were playing over here, and then going to
Yeah.
India just recently to play the World Cup, the sport is growing, especially here in Minnesota, knowing that there are a lot of kids who are starting to make it out of Minnesota. And there's a reason and there's a why and a pathway for kids to realize that, you know what, maybe I can make a name for myself in this sector. And knowing that I'm someone that these kids come to and they ask questions, or if I'm a role model for them, it's for me, it's more than just how I am on the field, but off the field as well, right? I don't want to just be someone who, they looked up to because I was taking wickets or I was playing with good players in high quality leagues. I want to be someone that they can look up to both in life as well, right? Knowing
Yeah.
how to deal with themselves on the field, what attitude should they bring to the field as a teammate, as someone who can be coachable, and what attitude they should bring, not only in just cricket and in life. And I always tell them that, like, you guys are all like my younger brothers. Whatever you need from me, whether it's on the field or off the field, I'll be there for you, right? Because I want it to be the person that was never there for me, right? I was
Yeah.
navigating all these things alone, had to make a name for myself through social media and trying to make those connections there. Now these kids, they have academies, they have practices going around.
Yeah.
I was like before school started, like I was waking up at 7 a.m. I'd be wearing a jacket over like the cold Minnesota weather. I'd be bowling. I'd put my own stumps and my own cones.
Oh my
And then once
goodness.
school started, I had my dad pick me up, and then he dropped me off to school. I change and get ready. So the kids are more fortunate than me at that time to,
Right.
now they have facilities and they have coaching, proper coaching. We're working on their technique, and like there's more exposure to them now too because they're going and playing against their own age group within different states, right? I didn't have that luxury at that time,
Yeah.
right? I was just kind of, put in that little Midwest squad and then learning and navigating from there. So it's pretty humbling knowing that these kids look up to you and they come to you for guidance and advice. And I feel like it all happened so fast, right? Like I'm
Wow,
really
yeah.
shocked that these kids want to ask me for advice and like, my story, but it's very humbling. And I really just want to be a role model for all these kids to guide them in the right places and give them all my honest feedback on whatever I can give them. And hopefully, there are going to be more kids out of Minnesota who will be playing minor league at a good level and playing all these tournaments. And if I can be the one to break through for them, then I'm going to do my best because now I feel like, my cricketing career is as short as it is right now. It's more than just myself. I feel like I'm representing my state everywhere I go, right? And
You
I'm
are, yeah.
representing that no matter what your circumstances are, where you're from, if you have a big heart, a positive attitude, and you back yourself in the rough times and don't make excuses for yourself and make things happen, then big things can happen for you. You just gotta
Yeah.
believe. You just gotta
Yeah.
believe. And if I can bring that for the kids here, then I'll do my full best, and that's what keeps me going on the bad days too.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think any little interaction that you have with the younger generation, it keeps you a bit more conscious about how you
Right.
carry yourself in the world as an athlete and as a person. Um,
Correct.
One thing I was curious about, considering that cricket isn't traditionally, at the time, big in Minnesota, did you ever consider moving to another state?
I did. I really did because I think I still get this right now where everybody says,
Yeah,
"Oh, if you want to play big cricket, you got to go somewhere else. Go to Texas, go to California."
right.
But I realized, right, especially also balancing my academics,
Mhm.
I didn't want to choose just one. Like I
Right.
told you, my priority is academics, right? My mom's gonna give me one on the wrist if I say anything else. But
Yeah.
um, I knew that I had to balance both.
Mm.
And like I said before, if I wanted to make excuses that, oh, I'm from Minnesota, that's why this, that's why that,
Mm.
I knew it was not going to serve me any good. And that's why I'm like, you know what? Let's make the trips to Chicago. Let's make the trips to Chicago. And as difficult as it is, people go to Chicago and think that's their vacation, that's their road trip coming to Minnesota. But for us, that's
Jeez.
a
Yeah.
that's just a commute. That's a commute to work,
Yeah.
right? That's a commute to work. So you got to make the impossible possible, right? And now for me, just it's a routine thing
Mhm.
because I didn't want to make excuses for myself. I want to make things happen. And I realized that if I want to keep my academics and keep my sports with me, then I got to do things a little bit unconventionally. And I feel like so far it's been helping me out a lot. And like I said, a lot of kids aren't as fortunate to get that backing and support with that their parents give them, and I'm immensely grateful for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's a beautiful thing that, you're someone that everyone can really look up to in Minnesota and, continuing whether or not later down in life you might move to Texas or California, who knows, post school, but yeah, things happen for a reason. Um, and I think it's great that you're bringing up Minnesota cricket and giving it a spotlight and the spotlight that it deserves. What does making it in cricket look like to you personally?
It's a good question. I feel like at the end of the day, there's no kid that starts playing cricket here and doesn't want to represent the nation and doesn't want to play in a World Cup. I
Yeah.
feel like, when you grow up, you're playing in the nets, you're always envisioning, the World Cup, last ball, six, World Cup, last over,
Mm.
wicket, right? So obviously, of course, it's representing the national team, right? And like I told you, what Jesse told me is, he made it out of New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
At a time where there was no cricket there, he made it out, he made things happen, and now you have, other cricketers flocking in from Jersey who are in national colors, such as, Yasser Muhammad and,
Yes.
Saiteja and all these guys who are doing an excellent job there at the national stage and are role models for their kids down in Jersey. So
Yeah.
I started really resonating and relating with that too, even with guys like Ali Khan coming from Ohio, same things, right? They're one of the biggest names in USA cricket.
Hmm.
They're not coming from high cricketing states though, right?
Right. Right.
So they all did it for their state. So what really motivates me is knowing that I have the opportunity. I'm playing good cricket right now. I'm still young, and knowing that if I have the opportunity to break out and get into national colors from my state, then it would not only benefit me, but benefit all the kids here who realize that, coming from Minnesota, you can make it. You can make it if
Absolutely.
you have hard work, determination, and a strong belief. So it's more than
That's
just
nice.
myself now.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. Well, Taha, we're gonna switch gears to a quick fire round.
Sure.
No pressure. Are you ready?
Yeah, we don't take pressure here.
Good answer. What's a piece of advice from your parents or mentors that you carry with you into every match?
Focus on the process, not the result.
Yorker or bouncer?
Yorker. Bouncers don't give you
Chris.
wickets.
Yeah, but that's good precision. What's your comfort food when you're feeling homesick or stressed?
Chipotle.
No way.
Seriously.
Oh my goodness. There's a cricket themed movie being made about your life. Who's
Mm.
playing you? What's the title? And what's your intro song?
Ooh. I'm going Ranveer Singh.
Okay,
The title is The Boy Who Believed.
good title. And
Intro
intro
song.
song.
I think you might have stopped me here.
Could be
Intro song.
anything.
Intro song. Nonstop by Drake, and the line
Okay,
will be, I just flipped the switch.
that's good.
Thank you.
If you get that call tomorrow, any Major League Cricket team, where are you going and why does that feel like the right fit for you?
LA Knight Riders because I love Shah Rukh Khan.
Okay, okay. And are we going because Shah Rukh Khan is your favorite? That'll feel like the right fit?
Yeah. Might be a bad answer, but it's a childhood dream.
No, there are no bad answers on this series. No, that's great. All right. Well, that wraps our quick fire round. But before I let you go, if you could tell your younger self something right here, right now, what would you tell him?
I would tell him that your belief in God is going to be the strongest thing that'll carry you to your success. So don't let go of that.
That is that is beautiful. I love that. And I think your younger self would appreciate that because your older self is just so faith driven. Um, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, Taha, thanks so much for joining me today on Between the Wickets. And to our audiences, if you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode. Until next time, I'm Krystal Ramroop. See you on the pitch.